kill ritual. Got to be careful how you say that because it starts to sound like Elmer Fudd. He's the kill ritual. So, but anyway, good stuff there, man. We really do appreciate David Reed for coming in and doing that with us. And now we kind of ran into David Cooper's time, but we can take as long as you need.
That's
As long
fine.
as you want. We're flexible that way. Thanks for coming, David Cooper. You've done a lot of stuff around here in town. What's up? What's going on?
You know what? Just living life and raising kids, and writing a lot, and been saying recording for a while. Although there's been some stuff that's been happening, but it's ramping up now, and just ready to get this record finished and kind of go for the next phase. So.
Nice. That's pretty good. Yeah, because you've been. I heard you do a couple of Billy Idol covers. When I've seen you on stage at Vamped or over the Vinion pool.
No.
I know you probably weren't really proud of that one, but
Yeah, you couldn't hear on stage, and it was you sing louder when you can't hear, and there comes a point where you're just singing, you're singing too loud to be able to compensate, you over sing it, and so you strain the voice pretty fast. So.
Yeah, we've had a few conversations, a few good conversations going on about things, the music scene here in Vegas, music scene in general. There are a lot of things there's a lot of cover bands out there. There's a lot of tribute bands and stuff. So it's, in my opinion, you're in that, and that's great. I mean, we kind of endorse Puppet a little bit, and
You better. Their Revolution Radio's on the shirt.
yeah, well, we help sponsor that. They're a bunch of good guys and everything, but I would rather actually hear original music than a cover.
One thing about them, though, is the fact that they do bring crowds.
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys we know do get to open up and get a little exposure to maybe a little older crowd, a little different crowd because of their cover tunes. So Smashing Owls and Puppet, those two,
Oh yeah.
they bring a lot of people to the show, and I mean they switch up with who they work with. I mean it ain't always their choice, but.
So who all's in your band? You got your band formed yet, or not yet?
Not really. I'm really just a solo artist, and it all boils down to practicality and logic. So as a solo artist, there's not going to be a band involved unless unless everybody's organically in it for the same reason. You're writing, you're recording, and if you're coming into it without a band, which is fairly common, then you've got to figure out. You almost really have to write and record the music first, and then you put the band together around that. Because in a cover band situation, for example, everybody's on board because there's a paycheck, and you're going to go do the gig, so people are going to go rehearse and tighten up, and then you go do it. And so there's a vested interest to do that. In an original situation, you have to have people that believe in what you're doing to the point that they're going to go and invest the time, the energy. So in other words, when you're an original artist, if you don't have anything to offer those band members back, if they're not writing and they're not participating in that part of it,
At least some input.
well, it depends on whether they have input to offer forth. So what the offering is, but if you're using session players in the studio and you're doing it that way, which is really a good way to go, in some respects, but. It boils down to basically, do you have a band or don't you have a band already? And if you have a band, are you guys all writing together, or what are the things going on? You may have some primary songwriters and some other guys that add in their, they add in their parts and what they're doing. A drummer, or a bass player, or a guitar player, whatever the case may be. But if you don't have an ongoing payoff for that band, while that music's being developed, while it's being recorded, while it's being promoted, there's nothing back for them unless they believe in it and they go, hey, I want to be a part of this thing that's going to turn into something at some point in time. And it's a hard sell to try to convince people to do that if that's not something they already do. In other words, the payoff for them has to be that they love the music and they want to be a part of something for that reason. And so when the endeavor is to write and record and market and then go play original music, it's a long road, because it doesn't do a lot of good to write and record and put out an EP or an LP and then not go tour that record. If you're going to play locally, that's totally fine, but at some point you need to, get on your bicycle and pedal out of town and go play for other people. Otherwise, you won't grow. And so essentially, you've got to market that music in an effective enough manner over a long enough period of time through every means that you can. Social media, of course, being the primary, but you've got to get, videos out there so people can start to associate with you visually and see what the artist or the band looks like. Artist, is plural, but it takes months and months and months of releasing, single after single, so that you can sell tickets. If you put out a record and you go hit the road, who's going to go see you if they don't know who you are?
Right.
Then you end up on a bill with maybe 4 other bands or 3 other bands, and you're playing, the smaller places that really cater to original stuff. But you're lucky if you can make $100-$150.
Between 4 guys minimum.
Well, you're just trying to pay for gas money, and maybe everybody shares a hotel room floor or a motel. But there are better ways to do it, and not everybody has all the means at their disposal to do things to their liking. But for me, when I look at it, that's kind of what my game plan is. I'm looking at I'd rather the record come out at the right time so that I'm ready to promote and I'm ready to do the things that are going to take the next 6 to 8 months before I even schedule dates.
Right.
If you want to go do a West Coast run and you want to play 10 dates in California, well, you better have some idea that people are going to want to go see you. It can't just be, hey, here's a new guy, you should go see him because.
Right.
And so, in the end, that end of it boils down to, business, and you got to be on your game. And it's fine to, like I said, it's fine to play in town for maybe, a couple of months and get your act tightened up, get your show down.
Get some of these people sharing it around the country or wherever it's at.
It's good to get people sharing it, but I think there's a saturation point locally where if you played for the 2 reasons, one is to gain that benefit of the exposure to the people that that you can develop some reach with.
Do some shows with, maybe get put on a tour or something like that.
Well, as an independent artist, I've always been a business person, so I'd create my own tour and just do it because I can do it. And if you've exhausted the exposure you can get locally and you've tightened up the band and the live show, then it's time to get out of there, or time to stop kind of playing locally because there's not really going to be a lot of benefit.
Either that or put down an amount of shows so you can do paid shows instead of free shows all the time too.
Yeah, I mean locally, on the local level, it doesn't concern me a lot. It's the world's a big place, and even regionally is a big place when you're an independent artist. When you're doing something original, you want to go play 5 dates where you've never played before. That's a big deal, and then you figure regionally, nationally, internationally, globally, if you can, think all the way around that. And so, it's a lot like looking, it kind of ties into whether or not you look for a label deal, and, or just some kind of a distribution deal. If you don't have anything to offer a label, in other words, if you don't have a following to offer a label, if you get signed to a deal, it's not going to be a deal you're going to be happy with, other than I'm going to trade off any of the benefits for the one benefit of getting exposure, because record labels are marketing companies, and that's first and foremost.
They don't care what the music is as long as they can market it.
Well, they do care. They do care enough that they care if it sells, but they're not really in it for. I wouldn't say at the core they're in it for the art, and that's okay because they're businesses and they put out.
They're a corporation.
Well, if you look at them like an insurance company, you figure that you have, a finite amount of people that are going to pay you every month as an insurance company, and you're going to try to prevent all of them from having accidents so that you can make a profit, return that to shareholders, whoever they may be, and but you got to pay out on the accidents that happen. So when a record label, a big label, they're signing acts all the time. They're giving advances on stuff. So there's a lot of money going out.
That 1 in 100 is going to sell a couple million, basically.
Yeah, or a lot more. Because really, I mean, it's most, the majority of whatever they probably advance money on won't come back. So it's a lot. It's a game of averages and whatever. But as an original artist being independent, you got to figure, if I were the label, would I give somebody a great deal if I was the one that was going to do all the marketing and actually expose them to the world? Well, I need something back for that before they get it back. We're going to trade you exposure. You're going to give us most of the money that comes from it, and then you can go out and tour. And that's the way the deals have always been.
That's where you sound like you're more ahead of the game, though, because you obviously have a piece of knowledge for every bit of everything you're doing.
No, thanks. I look at it, from a practical standpoint. It's just it's arithmetic, and at the end of the day, you have to do that math, and you have to think that how is this going to get paid for? And if a label in the old days, when pre-internet, pre-Napster, when people were getting label deals, everybody complained about their label deals. You had these big artists wanting to get away from Sony or whomever because they felt like they were big enough now that they should be making more money, but yet they were still bound by the deal that they signed before they were as big.
Right.
So the traditional construct is that you sign and you hope to develop enough that you can achieve the tenets of your contract, and you can live up to 7 albums, and that you can be good enough that then you can be in a position to renegotiate or shop a new deal. And so you get a big artist, a lot of times their labels will renegotiate because they want to keep that thing going, but those artists are truly few and far between that can continue to produce on the level that you
something
need
that's
to.
worth it.
Well, it's just that it's where do you the balance is art and profitability. So how do you strike a balance? The fantasy and the hope is that your art is something that other people like enough that if they would just naturally want to buy it and support it. The reality is oftentimes, more often than not, very different. So, you see compromises and things happening. And when you get a label deal, when the record company is putting their money into you, they're going to have input into what the art is. They're going to say, look, this last one was really good, and then the thing you did after that, that album wasn't so good, and we think if you return to this or you do this or that, it's going to be
We
good.
want you to do the first album that you got your #1 hit on, basically.
Yeah. And
that's
then,
where it all ends up back at, right?
Yeah, it can be tough. I mean, if you look at it historically, you've got bands that got picked up and did incredible things, and these are people that had never been famous. You're either famous or you're not. So if you haven't been famous yet, fame is a new thing when you get it. And those advances that come, and you could look at bands in the 80s as a good example. So
A lot of them.
guys are going to get a big old sign-on advance, right? And a lot of that money's got to be paid back anyway. So it's almost like what they're really doing is saying, hey, look, we're going to put you on the worldwide stage, and we really don't want you driving the same used car you drove. We want you to live to the level of what people expect you to live at and what you're achieving. So here's this money. That can be a massive distraction for people that
Have
were
never had it
really
before.
creative and really hungry, and then you get comfortable and you get to a point where it's nice to eat. It's
I
nice
think
to,
that's the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, that technically is the same thing as like some kid that got drafted in the NBA, NFL, or Major League Baseball. You come from some ghetto area, never had money. All of a sudden, you got millions of dollars in front of you, and you start spending it. And
Sure.
a lot of people can't recover from that because they're not as motivated anymore. They're not hungry.
Well, it just takes balance, and it takes it's hard to trust a financial manager. It's hard to trust a
Wow.
business manager. You get
A
people
lawyer, anybody.
you end up having to sue. You really have to, honestly, if you really look at this, as a business, the way that you would formulate any other business plan and any other, what I would call business protection plan, is that when you're playing with a situation like this and the kind of money that, can come from it, you need attorneys to watch the attorneys that you hire. You need independent parties to verify, because you really can't go to one source and think, okay, this guy's got my best interest, because in reality,
He knows you don't know what you're coming to him for.
well, he's supposed to have your best interest,
Mike
and he's supposed
Tyson.
to be.
How many people can you throw? Mike Tyson. There's a million.
Yeah, there's tons. I mean-
people that have went to finance and thought everything was great and spending millions of dollars, and then all of a sudden, where'd that other 150 mil go? To your manager, almost.
Well, the thing is too that when you've got, and there's some killer managers out there that are solid guys like Irving Azoff.
I know that name for some reason. I don't know
Managed
why.
the Eagles and done a bunch of other stuff. I mean, he's done tons of stuff.
And he's
but-
never been pulled into a Don King type thing, you tell me.
Well, he never was that guy, and so he
Right.
had integrity from the beginning. And so there are people that really take care of their artists and see it for the long term, and then there are people that they're
Like Suge
usually
Knight.
well, you know, that's a whole different kind of a situation. But essentially, you got to think from the beginning when you're quote unquote a nobody, you're a no name that nobody really knows, and you're going to go build that. You need people that really believe in you because you're going to have downturns, you're going to have obstacles, you're going to have things. You need people that are going to just give you the
Have
moral
the knowledge
support
you don't have to
and the
push it
knowledge.
farther.
So when you're independent, how many people like that can you afford to pay? Because they need money too. Otherwise, it's a hobby for them, and they're doing something else for a living, which means they have even less time to devote to whatever it is you want to do. So you've got to be the best supporter of what you can do. You've got to be pragmatic, and you've got to be above well-intentioned. You've got to be really honest about it. And so, again, getting back to the business plan, if I put the record out a year ago like I wanted to and had everything done, there's a lot more to come after the record's done. And I would be beside myself if I just released a
Just
word
put it out
and
and
then
then
put it
let
out
it
and
go.
it sits there. And then a year later, I'm like, well, do I go tour that record that's a year old? You could. Or 2 years or whatever, or do I, maybe I should do some new stuff. So the point is, some people think, and I've heard it all. I've had a lot of advice, unsolicited advice a lot of times given to me, and that's okay. But a lot of people, hey, just do something, just get stuff out there so people know you're serious. And that seems to be kind of a big issue locally that I've experienced is, that people seem to, if they see you sitting still, in their mind, you're not doing anything, and maybe you're not credible, maybe you don't have what it takes, and so, I've been through at least my fair share of, abuse and criticism, and I listen to everything because I'm a business person. So all information is just information. It's up to me to evaluate and vet the information and figure
And
out.
see if it's working.
Right.
Well, I always like to know where people are coming from. So when I hear criticism, my whole career was owning nightclubs. I built and owned and operated nightclubs for a living. And, when you put that money out, if you are a real hands-on operator, you create. It's a brick and mortar business. Like, you've got to be the guy that decides the color on the wall, what's the finish on the floor, what's the finish on the countertop, what carpet you're using, how much everything boils down to square footage. How many dollars per square foot are you going to spend to get this thing up and running? And after you've done it all, in the nightclub business anyway, once all the liquor is on the shelves, the ice machines are full of
Then you
ice.
figure out how many people in that square foot can.
Well, you already
drink
do that
even the
before
loaves.
you know all that stuff as you design it. But what you got to do then is, once everything is in place, the employees are hired and everything, the marketing campaign began long ago, and that marketing campaign's got to be a bad motherfucker, because if it's not, you open the doors, nobody's going to come, because the idea there's going to be a big line, even if you do get it, you've got to repeat that line,
Right.
And
several
that is,
times a week.
hey, that's a reason for people renaming clubs like every 6 to 7, 8, 9 months.
Well, it's
too, right?
cyclical, and people are fickle, and
Yep.
it's entertainment related, and so
This is the best place to go right now for 3
Yeah.
months. And
well,
then
to have an
all of a sudden
institution
nobody
that to have a CBGB's or a Whiskey a Go Go, those are
you
the
want a
crown
staple,
jewels.
something that's going to stay around, not
Yeah.
just a 6 to 9 month club.
Well, if you're realistic, you kind of figure that you want to get as much life out of it as it can provide, and there may come a point where you could have the best thing going, and just so
Nobody's
happens, well,
Yeah.
you're oftentimes your best customer, your best employee is now your new competitor, because they're going to see what you're doing and go, you know what, I like this, and I have a spin I could do on this, and you may inspire somebody to come in and just kick your ass all over the place, and now what was cool now is saturated, or maybe somebody's doing a better job of it. Maybe they're just doing a better job marketing. Maybe they have a better product. It could be anything. But at some point, the deal's going to run thin, and it's time to reevaluate your position and figure out, do you modify and overcome and adapt, or do you call it a day and you decide, okay, I'm going to go do a new thing? Because in reality, the nightclub business is, you're not reinventing anything. You're just you're trying to entertain
You're trying
people.
to charge more per bottle.
Well, it depends. You could, but you're really just trying to make a living and trying to figure out, how to provide people with a great experience. And so, it's kind of like everything that's entertainment related. I mean, art. What we're talking about is definitely still entertainment. And so, you put together a live show. you could stand there on stage and grip the microphone and be so captivating that if you flinch or raise an eyebrow, that could be enough to send everybody over the edge because, because that's what they're that into you. Or you could be completely all over the stage, and that's why they're into you. But the live show's got to be, you have to be able to have people transfixed and paying attention to what you do. And so there's so many issues that go in that by the time you make it to the stage in front of any audience, you've done so much work and so much marketing that if people are there, it's because you had an idea and a dream, and you persevered and you pushed and you coerced and you tried to manipulate for good reasons, people into saying, hey, I like this. And the reality is, like, it's kind of like pay to play, right? A lot of artists complain about that, but it's a misnomer anyway, because the concept of paying to play, I mean, when you buy that guitar, you're paying to play. When you decided that you're not going to do something else for a living, you're paying to play.
When you decide to do 20 free shows because you started a band,
right,
you're paying to play.
Well, you're basically, you're paying until it pays you. And so if I went to the Whiskey and said I want to book a show, I'm ready and I've got 15 dates I want to fill, in Southern California or whatever it is I want to do, and let's just say the Whiskey says, all right, it's going to be this much to play, it doesn't bother me because I believe in myself and I'm going, cool, how many tickets do I have to sell to make my money back?
Plus the Whiskey
start to
is
make,
a place to have on your resume too.
Well, it is. I mean, for me, I don't have any problem because you got to be practical about it. If it means that I can't sell, I'll look at it from a couple of different standpoints. I mean, you put yourself on every side of the equation that exists. If you're the club owner, you're going to say, well, we've had the Doors when they were new. We've had Led Zeppelin play here. We've had Van Halen. We've had Motley Crue, Rat. Wow, I mean, anybody you can name.
We've had every group that's ever played in a band that wanted to play somewhere want to play our stage because
and we're still open. So
that's
if you're going to play here, even with all that pomp and circumstance, that's all cool, and they're not going to expect me to have the following those bands eventually had right off the bat, or maybe ever. But what they are going to look at, if I'm the bar owner, I'm going to say, okay, well, here's my fixed cost, my variable cost, therefore here's my nut every month. I've got X amount of nights I'm open. I need to make a minimum of this much every night just to make sure I pay my bills. Therefore,
so even on a slow night, they got a number, whether it's somebody new or whatever. And
well, if you've got people showing up to work,
if
you got people showing up to work and you're using utilities, and you've got liability that's going to occur that day that could impact your insurance policy, you got to figure, okay, this is worth something. I got to cover these costs, and while I'm at it, covering these costs, I think I'd like to actually make something for the trouble. So I'm going to tack on a reasonable amount of money that I should make for taking this risk. So here's the number you've got to do as a guarantee that we have to know we can make this, because on the other hand, we have other bands that will take that chance. And if we're going to give you a shot in here, then if you can't make this minimum and you want us to take that chance, then it's probably not going to happen. We're not going to have a good night. So if I said to you, as the bar owner, I'll pay you, $300 to play, and the band says, hey, we'd rather have that than have to pay to play. Well, now I know the band's not going to worry about how many tickets are sold because they're getting paid. Right. I also know that if I'm only paying them $300, they really don't have any money to market with. So if I'm depending upon them as my marketing team for my business, not just for their own show, I'm making a mistake. And as the bar owner, I believe in myself that I can market my place better than the band can market my place, unless I'm using a name band that's a draw, that I think it's a co-op between me and them. So as the band, it's totally understandable. The venue says, look, if you believe in yourself and you can kick ass, come out and beat the streets and even the social media streets and kick some ass, and let's sell some tickets and bring some people in, because really what people buy when they're coming in the door, they're going to pay a cover charge for a ticket, but they're going to buy food and beverage.
Right.
So if there's nobody there to get thirsty or hungry, then you can't make any residual income. So,
right.
And really, do you want a venue as a venue owner that is known for being empty? Well, no, you don't. You want to be busy. Everybody wants to win, and everybody wants to do well. The best scenario is where everybody benefits. And so, the bands that don't understand that, really probably just don't have the experience in business to put themselves on the other side of the equation and go, okay, what does this guy need from me, and how can I make this happen? So, I'd rather make no money. I'd rather spend my own money if I had to, and do it, because if you're an artist that does or doesn't have the money, money's still important. So just because you have it doesn't mean you like to lose it.
No.
Now the artist that doesn't have it can't really afford to lose it, whether he likes it or not. But I guarantee if that guy goes in there and does a show with his band and it doesn't do well, he's going to be evaluating what they didn't do, what they did, what they could have done better, and that's going to make him, you know, it's going to make him more proficient. And so those are the things that I consider when I look at putting a record out. You know, how much money am I putting into a video? How am I getting that video out? How's the video doing? What kind of airplay am I getting? Are you going to make it on terrestrial radio in any, you know, manner that can really help you? Are you going to get on? Can you get on satellite? You can get the rotations, and even that stuff takes money, and it takes.
You can pay to play on that shit, right?
And so,
what's that deal with 1,000 plays on Spotify? I've been seeing this. Like all these groups that have been sending me stuff, they got exactly 1,000 views on their Spotify or something, and then somebody told me they're paying for that shit.
I don't know. You know, it's the kind of thing that happens is, you know, whether it's Spotify or Pandora or YouTube or anything else, you're paying for access. So you have to recognize the medium that you're working with, and you have to be able to, you know, offer them something, to offer you something in return. And you know, it honestly, there should be more business management courses for artists.
I believe that too.
You know, so I don't. I'm kind of all over the place. This stuff a little bit. I don't mean to be, but.
You know what? We're gonna play something here real quick. You're still gonna be here, right? You good? Aaron Manfredi's gonna be coming in. He's running late, so we can make sure he gets all his time he needs to, so we can talk. I gotta go to the restroom, people. That's the nicest way I can say this right now. I'm into this conversation. I know you people are too, but I gotta pee. Damn it!
Oh, yeah.
Revolution Radio 2.0, simple radio app. No, I don't need no help peeing.
I didn't ask.
.com.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, my CRO told me over there .com. Assholes, listen up.
Oh yeah, we'll take a short little break here. We'll be right back with David Cooper right here on the local uprising show with Caveman.
I'm back, Holmes. I'm actually back
He's
on
actually
air.
back.
Holy
So,
crap! Can you people believe it?
Here we go.
Dude, the conversations we've had today have been fucking totally fucking awesome.
It's more of a serious.
Dude, everything has been, yeah. I'm still here. That's amazing.
No, we get serious. But we do a lot of bullshit too. Well, we already have a lot of fun.
Can you guys play something from like what you're playing on the air now? Play something from YouTube?
I can download it. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how that all works, but. The one track on there is like, you know, it's, as far as what I've got live, or, you know, recorded stuff, you can play part of that. You don't have to play the whole thing. It's 8 minutes long, but if you want to do something like that, you can. So. Okay. That way I don't sound like some business manager guy that.
A lot of good information.
Thanks. Well, you know, it's.
I'm listening over here whether it looks like it or not. Some of the stuff I've heard or read before, but it's all good information.
Yeah, I just